Thanks, Anna. That was wonderful. Our next presentation that we have is from Konapiliahi Dancil. We have developing climate resilient restoration techniques for Hawaii's lowland west. So with that, I will give it to Kona.
Hello, everyone. My name is Konapiliahi Dancil, and I'm a first-year TCBES graduate student. I am presenting today my project on developing climate-resilient forests on Hawaii. I was born and raised on Maui, Hawaii, in the Ahupua'amakapau, and I grew up with a passion for the outdoors, which inspired a career in conservation. And I've been fortunate enough to work all over the state, in Hawaii, around the Big Island. And I've ended up here in Hilo, Hawaii, working under my advisor, Dr. Rebecca Oshikakai, on the Hybrid Restoration Ecosystem Project as the research field technician. And this is inspired, based on her work, how to restore these lowland wet forests of Hawaii. And so these forests in Hawaii are less than 2,500 feet elevation and characterized by abundant rainfall and lush vegetation. But these forests are in a dire state today, particularly due to invasive species like pigs and ungulates, which are accelerating things like disturbances and, of course, wind events and storm severity is falling our large canopy tree, Ohia, which is also accelerating disease like Rapakohia, which has hit these forests hard and caused the canopy to open up and allow for fostering invasive species that are much more open canopy resilient and competitive than our native counterparts. And so all three of these disturbances are accelerating one another, and we're seeing severe climatic shifts in these forests. So for land managers, the question then comes, what plants should be used in restoration on the platforms? This is a key question where we want to maximize efficiency of our resources. And so my thesis will be using a two-pronged approach, first being species distribution models to determine species with high adaptive capacity, and looking at non-native indigenous species as well as non-native exotic species, and seeing where they persist in future climatic scenarios across the globe, as well as functional trait space or functional trait theory, which is using species trait information to create community assemblages that foster growth for natives, or in some cases, non-native species. That is what the land managers are pursuing. And so the outcomes of this project is to develop a species list for restoration for each of these land managers, which include organizations like Konapiliahi Schools, Ke'autana Reserve, as well as Ke'autana Military Reserve and other agencies, and fostering natives or non-native species if that is their goals. And lastly, using functional trait theory to find replacement species. So on the right is a graph of a principal component analysis, graphing species trait information, and the two red squares highlight two highly invasive species, Pydemia and Melastoma, and a native counterpart to that species is Mawaki, who shares similar trait space highlighted in green. And so we can use functional trait theory to, in theory, remove the species by hand with management and foster Mamaki seed dispersal or outplant Mamaki in order to inhibit that micro niche in the forest and create a more invasive resistant and climate resilient forest. And the most exciting part of this project is the rekindling of the Hawaii Lowland Wet Forest Working Group. Like I mentioned earlier, it's filled with amazing agencies across Hawaii Island that are all working in this forest type. And we just want to coordinate a line of communication with all of the land managers and better maximize our restoration resources, and in particular, create a species list that is acute to each site's restoration goals. And this is going to help us because these land managers have faced challenges similar to one another, but the line of communication hasn't been there in recent years. So by collaborating and communicating with one another, we can better foster forests in the future. I'd like to take this time to thank the PICAS grant, as well as the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Science Applications for funding my project. And of course, my advisors and committee, the Liko Napuvina Field Group, the Hawaii Lowland Forest Managers, and the PICAS team. Mahalo. Yes.
Sitting back here, you see the slide very well about the replacement species. You come in monthly. What were the two invasive?
Yeah, apologies. The two invasives highlighted in red are Clydemia and Melastoma, and they're very present in honestly a lot of forests across the elevation gradient. And yeah, they can be replaced with mamaki because they have similar functional traits.
Are you still being seed bank and all? I mean, I think it doesn't, I'm still so girls have the seed bank.
Yeah, they tend to get into the seed bank very heavily. Their life cycle in the seed bank isn't nearly as long as mamaki, but that's something to consider. In theory, where you're removing clydemia or clusters first, you would outplant with mamaki, and in a perfect world, the mamaki, along with another combination of species that you are outplanting, would provide shade, preventing the seeds of clydemia to pop up. But it would still involve management. The goal of this approach is to reduce your management efforts and your man hours. Thank you, guys.
We're doing okay on time, so I've got one. And I've actually never thought of asking Dr. Ostertag this, but have you had any collaboration with Gail Ohana, who's also doing lowland wet forest restoration? I've heard that they do crazy things like shoot mamaki seed kind of smoothies out into the forest to disseminate their seeds.
I think that's the best example. And actually, yeah, when we showed her this graph without the red squares, she immediately caught on to that. So they saw great success. They went in, they removed the weeds, and yeah, just like you said, I think she filled the bucket up with mamaki seeds, used that full sprayer, and just shot them all over the forest. And they saw great success, and it's reducing their management time. So it's a promising theory approach. And yeah, Cindy or Jaya is an excellent manager. She's a great inspiration, and she's part of this working group, and she's very committed to learning more about how to restore forests. So. Oh, yes.
What functional traits? Say these traits. What traits are not noted on that?
Yeah, the functional traits list is approximately, and I don't want to spitball numbers here without confidence. So it's less than 20 traits, and they include things like wood density, growth height, how much shade it provides, the area it's found in. So the characteristics are all from Dr. Ostertag's study, the Konapiliahi project, and yeah, I wish I could give you information on the exact variables we included in the PCA, but they are the most relevant when considering competition.
The species that are most like each other, those traits compete with each other, and ones that are similar to spoon.
In theory, yeah, that's the biggest goal. And one thing I love to mention is that a lot of people are looking for new canopy trees to replace the loss of ohia. So that's a big thing we're exploring with this project.